My brothers and sisters who are in Christ, this is Minister Charles Brown from the Doctrinal Institute of Jesus Christ. Today, we will look at certain information that will help us confirm some mind-boggling questions. This lesson is on the creation of the world. In Genesis, first chapter, 1st through 31st verses, the Bible gives us plenty of information to confirm. Number one, that the angels was created prior to the world. Number two, the angels' duties. Number three, evidence by Albert Einstein to support 2 Peter, 3rd chapter, 8th verses. And number four, the creation of the world, the creation of man. Now, here is some verses to substantiate that the angels was created prior to the creation of the world. In Genesis, 1st chapter, 2nd verses, the Bible declares that the earth was without form and void. The words form and void describes emptiness, meaning nothing was there. It states that darkness was upon the face of the deep. This verse also states that the Spirit of God moved upon the waters. The Bible states that the Spirit of God is the breath of God, and his breath moved upon the waters. His breath or spirit created all the host of heaven, which is the angels. See Psalms 33rd chapter, 6 verses. Therefore, the host of the heavens is the angels that were created during the time that the earth was without form or void, thereby confirming that the angels were created before the first day of the creation of the world. Compare verse 2 to verse 5. Again, in Job 38 chapter, 4 through 7 verses, it states that God admonished Job for questioning him. And in verse 7, God alluded to the morning stars as singing together, and the sons of God shouted for joy. In this passage, the angels are not only described as the sons of God, but as being appointed at the foundation of the earth. Therefore, the context of this passage should tell you that the angels existed on the first day of the creation of earth, since the angels sang and God asked Job the question, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth?" See verse 4 through 6. Now, Hebrews 1st chapter 14 verses states that angels are ministering spirits for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation. And Matthew 18th chapter 10th verse warns us not to despise the little ones. It states that their angels always see the face of my Father in heaven. As the purpose of the angels is to minister to humans, it makes sense that the angels existed before Adam and Eve, who were human. See Isaiah 1st chapter 18 verse that says, "Reason the matter out." Now, Genesis 3rd chapter states that Satan tempted Adam and Eve, as earlier stated. If the purpose of the angels is to minister to humans, then it makes perfect sense that the angels existed before Adam and Eve, who was human. Therefore, the same rationale would make sense for those angels who had contempt for humans. Now, Satan is a fallen angel who had contempt for humans. See Isaiah 14 chapter 13 verses, Revelation 12 chapter 12 verse, and Hebrews 2nd chapter 5th through 6th verses. And these angels clearly existed prior to the human temptation. Now, the explanation of Jesus being in the bosom of God. Exodus 20th chapter 2nd through 6th verse confirms that the Creator is the God of Israel. John 4 chapter 24 verses declare that God is a spirit. John 1st chapter 18 verse states that Jesus was in the bosom of that spirit. Psalms 33rd chapter 6 verse states that the Spirit of God is the breath of God, and with his breath, God created all the angels. Therefore, if the breath of God is the Spirit of God, and Jesus was in the bosom of God, then Jesus was created at the same time of all the other angels in the Spirit of God. Now, the duties of the angels. Genesis 1st chapter, 2nd and 16th verses states that God created angels with his breath. See Psalms 33rd chapter, 6 verses. And made two great lights. The greater light was to rule the day. Not only is this light literal, but is analogized to Jesus the Christ, because he said that I am the light of the world. See John 8 chapter 12 verses. That he must work the works of him that sent him while it is day. See John 9th chapter 4 verse. And that he is the bright and morning star. See Revelations 22nd chapter, 16 verses. Now, since Jesus declared that he was a star, then it is conceivable that the angels of heaven is considered a star to give light to the lesser light that is analogized as the morning star. Now, the collaboration by Albert Einstein to support 2 Peter 3rd chapter 8 verses. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity supports the hypothesis of the Apostle Peter in 2 Peter 3rd chapter 8 verses. In 2 Peter 3rd chapter 8 verse, it appears that God was declaring to mankind the fruit of his spirit. In Galatians 5th chapter 22nd verse, it states that long suffering and patience is one of the fruits of the Spirit. In the creation of this world, God intentionally worked 1,000 years, as the Apostle Peter suggested in 2 Peter 3rd chapter 8 verse, to show these particular fruits. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity suggests that time can bring about long suffering and patience. Now let's talk about 3 words in the English diction. The words are let, create, and made, which is verbs. Let means to allow. Its expression is to give permission. Made means to build, form, or shape, by ingredients. And create means to bring about, and create means to bring into being. Neither word is declarative. A declarative word does not ask a question, nor does it give an order or express strong expressions. Supporting examples of this is to say, do you like cheese? Is a question. Pass the cheese, give an order. And I hate cheese expresses strong emotions. In the book of Genesis, we have phrases that start with the words let, create, and made. And each word that is associated with a phrase show action and give a request because of the words let, create, and made. Now, the creation of man. In Genesis 1st chapter 26 verses, we find that God said, let us make man, etc. The word let and make is a verb which give permission and build, form, or shape respectively. In Genesis 1st chapter 27 verses, God created man and female. The word create is a verb which means to bring into being. There you have it. Man and female was created in heaven, and man was built, formed, or shaped on earth in the garden. The reason for cross-reference. Cross-references is valid. See Luke 24, chapter 27 and 44 verses. John, 1st chapter 45th verse, 5th chapter 39th verse, and Acts 17th chapter 2nd and 3rd verses, and Romans 3rd chapter 9th through 18th verses. I thank you for listening, and may God bless you.